Ryan, as I said in the intro, the way that we met was just so serendipitous, right? Because here we are at this event, we're standing there, we're talking, and you're literally blowing my mind. Well, actually, my employee said, come here. You need to talk to this guy. It's amazing his amount of knowledge and just information that you were giving to them blew them out of the water. And then I talked to you and you blew me out of the water. So I'm like, we need to bring you on the show because now my audience needs your knowledge. So we're going to dive in today talking about metabolic health, which is, I guess that's your main jam. I mean, your brain is so big and you have so much knowledge in it, but that really has been your focus lately, right?
Yes, I have been in healthcare for almost 20 years as a surgical assist at MD Anderson, and always fascinated by how the human body works. Semi-pro athlete, so how do I optimize my health? And then realizing, being in the medical system, I was part of the problem, not the solution. So I had to go get more training on metabolic health, cell function, nutrition, and even genetics to understand what we know, what we don't know, and how to improve our metabolic health because we're in the sickest era of humanity ever. We have more metabolic disease than in any other time in history. And scary statistics are 95% of all diagnoses are metabolic, only 5% are rare genetic conditions. And I think a good starting point would be to explain to our audience that metabolic means, function of the cell, AKA cellular starvation. You're not getting the nutrients it needs, and it's causing some of the normal cell function to um, malfunction, and they domino. There's really only about 8 things that all cells do. And everyone knows mitochondrial energy production, but there's other things like autophagy and lipid peroxidation, which we don't want to confuse everyone. But what can we actually change with our diet? And finding things that actually work and are made the right way is so important because everyone's trying to sell you something.
Yep.
Uh, but yeah, this metabolic health is where it's at. In my opinion, there's really only one main issue, and that's metabolic. We just call it a different diagnosis based on the body system. Is it in your kidneys? Is it in your liver? Is it in your thyroid? Is it in your brain? Alzheimer's is metabolic. It's thyroid is metabolic. Cardiac is metabolic. Things are going wrong in these cells, and we just have a system of naming it. But really, we can enhance and improve metabolic symptoms naturally.
Well, I love that you broke it down that way because I've been saying this for a while as well. I think we're in a culture that uses the word metabolic and metabolism to directly reflect back to weight and fat loss. So we think I need to increase my metabolism, and that
Mhm.
just means speeding up the amount of fat that you're burning. But to your point, metabolism is so much more, and it's your hair growing, and it's your cells churning over, and it's the function of your thyroid. So I'm happy that you're breaking it down this way for metabolic health. Now, when you gave the stat earlier, 95% of us are all at a really metabolic dysfunction. I think we can we can layer that with obesity and issues with metabolic dysfunction as it relates to our body's ability to burn fat, the obesity epidemic that we're in, and we know that just carrying that excess body fat is going to set you up for any disease, a multitude of diseases,
Right.
but so does having poor metabolic health. I- the way that you're describing it, you could correct me if I'm wrong, the way that you're describing it, I'm hearing 95% of us are, yeah, we are obese, but then also we have just really piss poor metabolic health that is also going to lead to a variety of different diseases, including Alzheimer's and cancer.
Yes, they're all metabolic. So 95% of all diagnosis. When we go to the ICD-11 or ICD-10 diagnosis book, there's 800 plus diagnosis that end in itis,
Mm.
which is inflammation.
Right.
And when I ask other doctors or scientists or health coaches and visionaries what causes inflammation, I get the shoulder shrug. And it's big food, it's our lifestyle, and it's stress. To tie that in with Holistic Hub and this holistic approach and the shift to preventative and sustainable medicine and healthcare, we can give the body all the nutrients it needs, but if you're too stressed out, you're still going to have poor metabolic health. It's a two-way street always. The gut-brain axis is a two-way street, but 80% of the information is coming from the gut to our brain. Only 20% is going from our brain to our gut, and meaning that we have to have the pillar of our health is giving the ingredients for all cells. Metabolics and metabolism, think of 30 trillion cells that our body is made out of, and even more bacteria and even more mitochondria. We have 10,000 mitochondria in one heart cell. We have 2,000 mitochondria in one brain or one liver cell. So all of these individual cells, they're just like an individual organism working as a symphony, a beautiful tapestry that requires a garden of vegetables and fruits and proteins. It's never isolated into this one thing. And you have so many people talking about magnesium. Well, magnesium balances calcium, sodium balances potassium, zinc, and copper. So potassium is actually the number one deficiency, meta-analysis. It lives inside the cell, so it's hard to measure with a serum blood draw when we're measuring transport systems instead of intracellular. But there are more advanced technologies that utilize spectroscopy, lasers, that can look inside the cell and give you a different measurement of what's going on with your metabolic health. This device behind me is the biophotonic scanner. It's measuring antioxidants inside the cell, giving you a 60 to 90-day snapshot of your health. And it's like a lie detector test. It's a credit score. When you have a low score, you're at risk for metabolic disease, which is macular degeneration, thyroid, cancer, cardiac disease, all these different measurements. So it's really changing the perspective, shifting the perspective into metabolic health, meaning cellular nutrition, and managing our stress always, because in anxiety, depression, any of our neurodiagnosis, all high histamine levels in the brain, all deficiency in omega-3s, deficiency in these antioxidants that help drive and break down histamine. Yes, there's genetic variance, but you can have depression, anxiety, ADHD. They're all symptoms of the same thing, metabolic dysfunction, just like you're saying obesity. Obesity is a symptom of metabolic dysfunction. We are storing fat where it's not supposed to be stored.
Mm-hmm. So really, it's safe to say, and we're going to get into stress and we're going to get into the minerals as well. But right now, it's safe to say that if you have really anything wrong with you, if you've been diagnosed with a thyroid condition, if you've been diagnosed with cardiovascular disease, if you are struggling with obesity, if you have really any symptom, you have metabolic dysfunction.
100%. It's the world we live in, where processed food is cheaper to make than organic food or whole foods. And a simple rule of thumb for anyone is eat food as it's made in nature. If there's an ingredient you don't understand, don't eat it.
Yeah.
That simple thing, and increasing your fruits and vegetables intake, regardless if you are in a food desert and can't afford organic or there's not a farmer market around you, all these studies show that everything's balanced. Nature's in the balance. So if you have more antioxidants from your fruits and vegetables, that increases your detox pathways to get rid of the chemicals that we can't avoid in this modern world. And we've done more to our environment with chemicals and food in the last 100 years, in the last 50 years, in the last 20 years than in any other time in history. That's why we're in a metabolic crisis. And I don't think the community really understands the gravity of that situation when we have infants and 6-year-olds with fatty liver disease. That never happened before.
Right.
That's new, and it's purely dietary. A lot of dietary deficiencies are inherited. So you're a product of your parents' nutrition, of your grandparents' nutrition, and that's all vetted science as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to say, you have to look back at, if we're seeing infants with fatty liver, then right, what was mom eating leading up to pregnancy, during pregnancy, all of it, what's in her breast milk, the chemicals. And really that leads us beautifully into the stress topic, because even exposure to that amount of we'll just say chemicals, because that can include pesticides, that can include the hormones, the antibiotics that are injected into meat.
Yeah.
That is a stressor as well. That's almost a chemical environmental stressor. And then we can bring in obviously the mental stressors, the physical stressors, all of that.
Yeah, it's nature's technology reigns supreme. And what I mean by that is there's no such thing as bad weather. There's no such thing as a bad emotion. We all need these emotions, good and bad. Fear or challenges are a catalyst for growth and change. Whether it's our physical body and we're working out to get stronger, we have to push kind of through that pain. When we're learning a new skill, it's really frustrating and it's difficult, and we get so frustrated, but that's growth. We're creating new neural synapses and pathways, and it takes a lot of repetition. The same is for stress. The things that trigger us are difficult and we often avoid it, and there's also a psyops. We're conditioned by television and the media to suppress our things that are bothering us. Get the quick fix, get the dopamine hit on your phone, go buy new clothes, drink some alcohol, party on the weekends, go after the money. Instead, what we need is nature, sunlight, and to meet our emotions, to challenge our things that we're afraid of. They're not there to live in a bubble wrap and avoid for the rest of our life so we don't get triggered. We really have to understand that we have to shift our perspective on the things that are difficult for us emotionally. So we're not only healing generational trauma through learning how to cope with our triggers and manage our own stress and invent and discover new coping mechanisms, but also the nutritional support that helps our hormone production, our mind deal with the neuroinflammation that comes along with all of these trauma, stress in our modern life that you can't avoid. I mean, I can't explain, I can't say in detail enough how important it is to manage your stress. And it's no one's job to tiptoe around your topics. We're all responsible. We're all sovereign for our own feelings, and they're just directions. When you get triggered, it's normally not something that's happening to you in that moment. It's reminding you of something in your past that was traumatic, and how that your body remembers. The body keeps a score. That's science. That's DNA. That's
Yep.
well documented. So when I talk to clients or employees and they have something stressful, I'm like, one of the things I say is, think about this feeling that you're feeling right now. And can you remember in this moment, when's the earliest time you felt that feeling? And then it's our job to shift the perspective on that. So we're not projecting. I like to say an infinity feedback loop of perception is projection and projection is perception. And this ties into the etymology of the word diet. We go back to Latin and Hebrew pictographs, what words mean. There's a psyops on connotation, like the word indulge. You normally indulge in something negative, like a donut, pizza, ice cream. I'm indulging in all this stuff. It's decadent, right? But we're indulging in this conversation. We're indulging in empowering others with health. So the word diet, translated in basically old hieroglyphics, means everything that I take in and absorb that makes me breathe easier, puts me into harmony, homeostasis, and alignment, restrict all else, and then my purpose is found. That is the etymology of the word diet. So when people ask me what diet do I subscribe to, I ask them, what do you think the word diet means? Because diet means way of life. It means restrict all that doesn't serve you. That's diet. So that is not only the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, but the internal dialogue, the media, the music we listen to, the conversations we participate in. Those are way of life. It's your choice. So we always have a chance to choose to change, because what we don't change, we're choosing.
Wow. That's just like a huge mic drop moment. I just want to take a moment of silence and pause there, because that is so good. That is so good. And I'm sitting here as you're talking thinking, you know what I wish? I wish I could bring you the couple of patients that I have, because I always do this when I'm recording with an expert. I start thinking about my patient population, and I wish I could bring you the couple of patients that I have that they claim, I mean, we never know 100% for sure what's going in someone's mouth, but they claim to be, eliminating processed foods, and they have their macros down, and they're eating the organic, and they've shifted all of that. And now we're getting them optimized thyroid hormones, and their body is just stuck. They're just like, I'm not progressing. I don't feel like I'm progressing. And, albeit that it's few and far between that will have those tough cases, but I would love to bring them to you. And I would bet money that it's coming from up here, that it's coming from their thoughts, their self-talk, the way that they handle stress. So that brings me to a question. Have you seen with your clients or anyone that you've worked with that you can almost put them into categories of, this person tends to not deal with stress more, tends to stress about things, loop thoughts in their head, and their health is piss poor. This person has a lot of resiliency because they've realized that the struggles they went through in life, the crises, have really built them. So now they're more resilient, and they're also more self-protective. Like, I'm not going to let your projection affect me. It's not going to ruin my day, nor is it going to ruin the inside of my body. Like, can you actually categorize people based on personality types?
100%. My college sweetheart studied at Naropa, which is a school for therapists that's Buddhist based in Colorado. And so I participated in all these studies, and we always joked, why isn't health integrated with the physical and the mental? Because you'll never separate them. But it's really that trinity, your relationship with the divine, whatever your belief system is, and then your mental health and your physical health. That's a synergy that works together. So I have clients that come to me for nutrition, but then we end up talking about trauma
Yeah.
and changing their perspective. It's finding the right modality for the client. Sometimes it's journaling, sometimes it's storytelling, sometimes it's just listening and being acknowledged. Sometimes it's simply being out in nature and not listening to music with words. There's a lot of different modalities that work, and no one's healing journey is the same, but it always involves defining what you believe in, managing your stress, and learning how to get more of the nature's technology, natural food that we need in our bodies. So another way to think about it is everything is frequency, and nature is always balancing. So calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium, copper, zinc, fear and love. The spiritual path, it doesn't matter what spiritual path you believe in. To me, that's just kind of like choosing what kind of food you want. Do you feel like Indian tonight, or Chinese, or American, or Greek, or South African? That they're all have one similar commonality, and that is summarized in 2 sentences. The spiritual path is to unlearn conditioned fear, to learn how to love yourself more and then others. So we unlearned programming of processed food, of over medication, of stressing out, of being in victimhood, toxic environment. And then that's learning how to love ourselves more. Discipline is the ultimate self-love, and we're never designed to go through life alone. So we need help. I don't know everything. I have a lot of people that have helped me on my journey and my path. And I'm still learning, because that's growth. As we evolve, we're getting in higher harmony. Our bodies are becoming more attuned. So every cell works better. Every endocrine center, which is where every chakra center is, works better, including our pineal gland, which is our antenna for whatever our belief system is. So absolutely, it's meeting a patient where they're at. And that's what the transition into holistic care is treating the entire human, not separating us down into these specialties when they're all have always been intimately connected. That is by design. So when we learn how to treat the body and the mind and stress, and say, hey, where are you stuck? Let me help you. It's okay. And we all have our own paths. There's no judgment when everyone's at. And there's a lot of different ways to get there, but nutrition's foundational. And then it's stress management. And then it's what do you actually believe?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And what's beautiful about the body and just about everything we're talking about today is one topic just blends and influences the other. So we will be moving on to obviously minerals and antioxidants and protein and all of that. But even before we move there, we can step back and say the mineral status is going to affect how we deal with stress. and how our neurotransmitters work. And then that stress is going to come back and play a role in our metabolic health. But then the minerals over here are directly influencing the metabolic health. So it's just a big soup, and we're just kind of stirring everything together. So in your studies, and especially with the, what is it called again? The biophotonic scanner. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is kind of an inside look at the cell. I'm just curious. This is totally just an off the cuff question. Have you had a client you're working with who, just like I described, like, you know what, everything's right here. They're doing all the right things, taking all the right supplements, getting the right nutrition. Man, something is just off. And then you do that scan and you see, there's something not right. Maybe they're not absorbing, they don't have the right balance, but it comes back to stress. And then once they address it, or maybe they don't, if they don't address it, they stay right where they are. If they do, then the next time they scan, they're better. Like, I'm just kind of thinking of a scenario.
Oh yeah, right. So it's correlating. We're working with nutrients and extracts that we know clinically are proven to raise your serum levels of minerals, vitamins, 40 antioxidants, 25 phytonutrients and carotenoids. And that's the basic. That's where we step in. But then as I work with the client week to week, we're talking about what's going on in their life. We're talking about their trauma. And so as they're able to absorb more nutrients that help them lower the inflammation in their brain, that help them get better rest, that help them concentrate more, that help them actually make more serotonin in their gut by feeding the gut, then we're acknowledging the mental stress. And 100%, they're seeing massive improvement. And we've scanned 26 million, I'm sorry, 30 million people now in 50 countries, testing their antioxidant levels versus oxidative stress. Because if you have low antioxidants, you have really high oxidative stress, which is all this metabolic disease, inflammation. 99% of the people are low. The average American is in the 20s. It goes from 10 to 90K. And yes, to answer your question, talking about stress, it's a toxic environment. You can also say that all health is two things: finding a balance of the toxic internal and external environment. So
Finding a
metabolic,
balance between the external and internal toxic environment. I just had to repeat that because that's powerful. And I actually wanted to say it to myself because yeah, I mean, think about that phrase. We always have a toxic environment outside and inside, as much as we try to control it. So yeah, you have to find that balance.
what you choose to participate in. Do you choose to participate in that conversation? Do you choose to participate in your negative self-talk? And that can be a really hard one for people. I mean, my partner, she struggles with it. It's done a lot of work and it never goes away. It's just kind of like, for those of us that have lost someone close to us, like I have, that grief never goes away. We just become more proficient at carrying the weight of it.
Yeah.
And so shifting that perspective and seeing the beauty in what that person taught me in life, and remembering them and looking at my future self and enacting in this moment, in this stressful situation, I want to look back at myself and say that I'm proud of the decision and my reaction, that I didn't contribute to my own downward spiral of emotional grief or anxiety or anger or any of it. Again, there's no bad emotion. It's like the weather. We have bad weather clothing choices. If it's really hot outside and we're wearing a coat, we're going to be really uncomfortable.
Right.
But storms blow through. So an emotional storm comes through, we're triggered, and we just have to weather the storm. We don't need to take drastic action based on a trigger or an emotional situation. We need to take time for ourselves, calm down, get off of social media, and just learn how to sit with ourselves, which is uncomfortable, just like training and learning any new skill set. The fun thing I did with ChatGPT is plugged in all religion into ChatGPT from all history and said, find me 9 commonalities. The first one was observation. So awareness. We're aware that we're having these feelings and stressors. So being aware that you're influenced by media, being aware that you're influenced by the processed food and the over medication. And then it was reflection. reflect on how you're being influenced, reflecting on your own reactions to all these circumstances. You know what number 9 was?
Hmm.
Community, helping each other.
Mhm.
We're all put on this planet to help each other. No one lives in isolation. We've always had a tribe and community. And if your community is not helping you grow, you need to assess and reflect on that.
That is so good. I mean, this is like an hour therapy, 5-hour therapy session in one, because all the things that you're saying, they're really hitting. I mean, I'm not BSing anyone listening to this. Like everything you're saying, it's sinking down inside. And in a millisecond, I'm thinking about a time that I did
Mm,
XYZ or I allowed myself to be triggered. I chose to wallow in negativity instead of shifting my perspective. So everything you're saying is just really, really hitting home. I didn't even expect our conversation to go this way, but it's so impactful. It is so impactful when we're talking about metabolic health, the health of our body. If you
mm,
want to sum it up that way,
yeah.
stress is huge. It's huge, but we have such intense power. And it really doesn't even take, would you agree? It doesn't really even take going into therapy. It doesn't take, 2 years of talking to someone weekly on a couch. I mean, it really doesn't. It's inside of us to change.
I love Nicole LaPera. She's the holistic psychologist. I was an early fan of hers when she was in the thousands. Now I haven't even looked. Last time it was like 6 million views. But she left clinical psychology because the information was being hoarded, and talk therapy is not great for everyone. Just like psychedelic medicine, it's not great for everyone. We have serotonin receptor mutations, and it's not a key candidate for everyone.
Mhm.
Uh, but nonetheless, they're powerful modalities. So her book was how to do the work. Here's the things that they teach us in psychology. Here's access to do them. Here's journaling prompts. Here's breath work. Here's all these things that can work. And then she came out with a workbook after that. I send that to clients all the time because it's made like a crayon book, like a coloring book. Beautiful artwork on the page, and like, oh, I'm going to fill this about how I'm feeling today. It's like how to meet yourself,
Mhm.
which so many people don't do until tragedy hits, until a health event hits, until if you don't have your health, what do you have? So when that finally gets robbed for us, and it's just a ticking time bomb in this country, then you're forced to do that. So get ahead of it.
Yeah.
Find out what you believe in. Find out what serves you. Find out your way of life, what really is important, and restrict all else.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think we can drive the point home enough, that just what you said, that get ahead of it now, because I will tell you, even just from a functioning standpoint, a life standpoint, a managing your business standpoint, a running your family standpoint, that if you are blindsided by a significant health situation, and I'll give credit to Joe Polish for this one. He said, an entrepreneur, a driven individual has a million ideas a day, a million fantastic ideas that will blossom into amazing things. But if you don't have your health, that same driven entrepreneur has one thought a day. What
Wow.
am I going to do with my health? And everything else gets put on the back burner, basically shut down. Creativity stops, interaction stops, community stops, business stops. So why not try to prevent it now? I mean, we all might get blindsided with
Yeah.
something,
Yep.
but why not at least even shore up our body so that if that blind side comes, you're better prepared for it. And maybe that focus of just focusing on your health and shut down to everything else only has to happen for a week or two or a month or two. And it's not 2 years worth of your business going in the tank and your family being destroyed because you can't think of anything else.
Right. We need better assessment tools. We need better ways to not wait until tragedy strikes, to a health event strikes.
Yeah.
And precisely what this does. It's measuring your risk for metabolic function. So we know you're at a greater increased risk for Alzheimer's, for anxiety, for cancer, cardiac disease, macular degeneration, breast cancer. I
Mhm.
mean, it's it's been validated by Yale Cancer Research, Stanford, Texas Tech, ongoing research, an amazing 30-second test that's another vital sign. We're already taking your blood pressure, your temperature, and here, let's check your metabolic health. That yes, your stress impacts, but let's measure it. It costs $20 for a test. If you did the lab test that most physicians aren't even trained to measure these things, it would cost thousands of dollars.
Mhm.
But this is changing to preventative awareness. So you don't just need to go to a doctor's office. This can be found anywhere. And that's my job and passion, is for more health information, education, and access to these modalities, access to nutrition, access to supplements that work, that are made the right way, that are measured down to 1 part per billion, that are actually listed in the physician's data reference book. This is what the public deserves and is crying um, for answers. After we're all shut down and locked away, we started to question a lot,
Yeah.
and we need better sustainable health available to us, that information. But our fact checker is funded by big food,
Yeah.
big pharma. It's
Yeah.
it's really tough. We're living in a world where obesity recently was classified as a mental disease only, and you have government agencies saying that processed food doesn't impact your metabolic health, which is the
Right.
complete opposite of all of our scientific research. But it's a tough world when Coca-Cola contributes more money to diabetes and American Heart Association, and has more nutritional studies than the NIH, exponentially more.
Yeah.
So,
You've talked to Callie Means, haven't you?
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And met
Extensively.
met his sister in
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, they're both great. They're doing phenomenal things in the world of getting the message out. But for those who don't know what we're talking about, Callie Means, and I still have to reach out to him to get him on this show too. I've heard him speak multiple times, and he is basically an open book whistleblower as to the behind the scenes of what happens with big food and big pharma. And your jaws would drop if you heard a 20-minute interview with Callie. Your jaw would be on the floor. But I really think it's shocking, but yet not surprising. The last 4 years, I think, have opened up people's eyes to the BS going on in our government, media, big pharma, and big food, all tied together to basically destroy your health. And if you haven't gotten your head out of the sand yet, then maybe this podcast isn't for you. But honestly, I think there's a much more heightened awareness now. But now we need to take those people that are aware going, yeah, maybe the statin, blood pressure, and antidepressant that I'm on isn't what I need. Maybe I do need to look at my food. Maybe I need some better nutrients and minerals. I need to step back and look at this. And that's what we're asking you to do, is just be open-minded and realize that the treatment that you're on right now might not be what you need. We might dig a little bit deeper, need to dig a little bit deeper into the root cause. So, okay, I wanted to kind of hold back on letting people know about I keep getting it wrong. What's it called? The
But-
biophotonic scanner.
right.
But you've mentioned it now, and I know people are going to be like, where can I go? Where can I get this test done? How do I do this? So where is it? Where is this test, and how easy is it for people to get?
It's it is not. It's hard to find one. We only have 3,000 devices in the U.S. right now,
Mhm.
but you will be seeing this more and more as we're teaching doctors how to use this in their office. It's not classified as a medical device, so there's no legal red tape for them to jump through, and it's allowing their patients to use their HSA to get supplementation that is clinically proven to improve your score of metabolic health. And the implications are for every single specialty, for hormones, for fertility, for orthopedics, for surgery. And we have keynote speakers that utilize this and speak and teach on a national level. It's just now time to get the word out. This is the early adaptation. So this is going to be a new staple, already is a new staple of measurement for your health that is inexpensive. $20 instead of thousands of dollars of lab tests. I
Right.
mean, and it's, to your point, yes, we need more vitamin E. We need more carotenoids in our diet. We need proper antioxidant matrix that comes from a garden and rainbow of different fruits and vegetables. But when we talk about supplementation, is it made the right way? And it's an unregulated market. So unless your company is completely transparent in how it's made, It's a whole nother ball game. Pharmanex has 80 PhDs that left Big Pharma. You have Joseph Chang, Joe Chang, and Degrassi. These men invented statins, birth control, immunosuppressant drugs for organ transplant, and they were all studying botanical extracts. Every
Mm.
single one of them. That's why they left 40 years ago to create the largest nutraceutical startup ever. And natural pharmaceutical grade extracts, traditional Chinese medicine or Ayurvedic medicine. We are researching in China and America things that have worked for lineages and have patented published data, extraction methods. I spent the last 10 years calling these companies and asking, how is this made? How do you test for it? Down to what part of a molecule do you know that this is potent or pure?
Mhm.
And most of it's BS. There's 99% of what's on the market. People are no different than food or pharma and just trying to sell you something that could actually be causing you more harm than good. And for instance, testing something down to 1 part per billion is insane. That's an Olympic-sized swimming pool and taking 1 drop of iodine, sampling that Olympic-sized swimming pool and detecting the iodine. So that's the level of potency that is guaranteed on that label, that they are transparent because they own their own lab with $40 million worth of lab equipment to produce it that way. It's also cleaned down to that level, removing contaminants, removing glyphosate, removing heavy metals down to that level.
Mhm.
It's a whole other ball game that the general public just is unaware of, that the manufacturing of a supplement matters so much. Case in point, like a mushroom extract, like cordyceps.
Yeah.
The most potent form of a cordyceps extract is a spore extraction. That's a microscopic spore. These companies don't have the lab equipment or the medical or scientific staff to do a spore extraction. It costs too much. They can't afford it. So there's amazing patented, published research on these things. Like my stepdad just finished cancer treatment,
Mhm.
and his surgical oncologist professor at Baylor asked for the supplements and the data on it because he's never seen someone over 65 recover from chemo so fast.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Well, and then that totally explains why I've never felt any significance of the mushroom supplements or coffee or extracts that I've taken from a boatload of different companies, because it probably was not extracted on a spore level. So yeah, that totally, just you saying that makes me think like, okay, this is definitely making sense to me now. And listen, for years I have told my audience that you really have to be a savvy consumer with supplements, because I was in that industry. I saw the behind the scenes. I mean, I'm in it now with my line, but I saw the behind the scenes of the bullshit that would go on.
Yep.
And it's horrendous. I mean, it's horrendous.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to your point, you need to be a savvy consumer. Now, when
And
we're moving into the minerals, the carotenoids that you really wanted to kind of extrapolate on, because I want to know more about the
mhm.
importance of carotenoids. How important are how important is mineral balance and getting in these fundamental building blocks to the overall health of the cell and our metabolic health? And even, I mean, we can even tie it to metabolism as we think about weight as well, because I got to tell you, and then I'll let you answer. Um, I'm going to be interviewing Dr. Gus Vickery tomorrow regarding GLPs, but I know
Mhm.
his approach is that you need the minerals getting into the cell to protect against the lead muscle loss and to protect even against some of the side effects of the GLPs. That it's not the GLP that's bad, that's eating away your muscle, but it's the depletion of the minerals and the amino acids that cause that lead muscle loss up to 40%. So that even just talking about minerals as it relates to our ability to release fat and keep lean muscle is vital.
Yeah. When we have potassium at 98% deficiency in the US, when we have vitamin E deficient at 90%, meta-analysis, nutritionfacts.org, vitamin E is part of our immune system. It's part of our hormone production, is part of the testosterone production, progesterone production. It is directly linked to the egg viability and quality, or sperm viability and quality. It's also sunscreen. It is internal sunscreen. My partner Madeline is extremely fair skinned, and when I met her, she was burnt from a family beach trip. She's never burnt again, and we rarely use any type of sunscreen ever because we are adequately our serum levels of vitamin E are higher. And it's the type, and yes, it is the balance. So everything's always seeking balance. So we're a big fan of humate, right? Using these minerals that are naturally derived to give you all the minerals you need, but we know
Yep.
we need more of all of them. So it's finding a ways and educating our clients on the diet side of that. But one of the other things we can do is the lipid peroxidation, the lipid bilayer, the skin of the cell. It's an organism, right? So all these nutrients go in and out of the cell. Carotenoids live in the cell membrane. It is one of the most important phytonutrients and antioxidants. It is the first line of defense against free radicals. So not only does it help with the structure of the cell, but it helps the doorway of all other antioxidants get into the cell and waste product from inside the cell out. You are literally increasing cellular respiration. You're increasing every receptor and protein binding site on the cell by elevating your carotenoid levels. It is the best kept secret in all of nutrition. So yes, we can do things to increase mitochondrial health, important, and to manage your stress, avoid blue light, make sure you're getting enough sleep. But if you increase your carotenoid levels, it has the most significant impact on your metabolism, your metabolic function. That's what Pharmanex has been studying for 40 years. We have data on GI, an anthocyanin extract. It's a carotenoid. It comes from black rice. And an extract is exponentially more potent than you can possibly get by consuming just the black rice.
Okay.
That we know that fixes leaky gut. That plumps up and closes gap junction in the one cell layer thick lining of your small intestine. That's clinical data. It's published. It's researched. We know. And leaky gut causes autoimmune GI. So people come to me with food allergies all the time, and we say, right now. But as your GI system heals, all that food that's getting through your filtration system, imagine someone has an air filter and you just poked a bunch of holes in it, a lot of junk would get through. Well, when that junk gets through, it's getting directly into your bloodstream and causing an immune response. So when we close up those gap junctions, now your filtration system, that one cell thick layer lining, is one of the largest organs in the body. It covers over a tennis court with one cell layer thick. So it is so instrumental to the rest of your health because it's how you absorb and transport these other nutrients. But that's one small example of carotenoid function in an organ system that is not only making those cells more robust, protected, it allows them to get rid of their waste. It allows all the other proteins and nutrients to bind to the receptor of the cell and enter the cell and give that cell what it needs. So now you are bolstering cellular health. You are providing better metabolic function, increasing each of the 30 trillion cells their nutritional status, giving them all the ingredients they need. When you have a starving human, you don't just offer them a cup of coffee or an antibiotic. They'll say, gee, thanks. And, it'll keep them going for a little bit longer, but they need to be nourished. So your 30 trillion cells need to be nourished. So that's movement, sunlight, water, but carotenoids are literally how the cell gets nourishment in and out of the cell. That's the simple baseline. And then we know that different carotenoid extracts affect different parts of the body. We even know certain carotenoids affect epigenetic response and changing gene expression with aging. Transitioning your epigenetic or nutrigenomics, changing gene response by nutrition. Everything that you're putting into your mouth has the impact to change your genes, to change the expression of your genes. So when someone is on a GLP-1, nourishment is more important than ever because yes, they're going to be less hungry, right? We're turning off their satiation. So now we need to give them the nutrients that they need, which they got to have their protein intake, healthy fats, but let's give them these super concentrated carotenoids that are proven to change your metabolic health, lower your risk of all metabolic disease, increasing the absorbability of all the nutrients to every cell in your body. That impacts our our stress, that impacts your thyroid, that impacts your liver, that impacts your detox pathways. We'll never avoid all of the chemical soup of the modern world. So people often ask, well, how do you detox? That's how you detox. You increase your NRF2 pathway by increasing all these carotenoids that we know. And we even have specific product line that is NRF2. So you take it at night as you're detoxing. I love combining that with our Humate supplement that is giving all your minerals as a chelator. The green tea extract that is a super potent carotenoid, 97% catechins, that we have to own our own farms on two sides of the planets and handpick these leaves because the compound only exists in the tip of the green tea leaf.
Oh my God.
That increases not only your metabolism, how fast you burn and work through calories, but also increasing your immune system. Chelator. It is a potent chelator, meaning that it is like charcoal, where it's absorbing nutrients from like someone who had too much alcohol or drug poisoning, they give them charcoal. The problem with something like charcoal is it's nondescript. It's also absorbing the minerals that we're already deficient in.
Yeah.
So we have to find these natural chelators like our humate, like this green tea extract that we know binds. There's an experiment I do when I bust open the capsule of a green tea extract. I have a glass of chamomile tea. It's yellow. I will open up the capsule of green tea extract and it will make the water clear instantly because it is binding to that tea.
Okay.
And that's what's in the body. So now you're giving your body the nutrients it needs and pulling out even like the GLP-1. You don't want it in your system staying in. You take it, you need it. Same thing for my stepfather and chemo. We have to let it do its job, but then pull it out of the body because it gets stuck in there. And same thing with all these heavy metals. You know, Scan is another fantastic device that measures heavy metal and mineral and fat soluble vitamins, nutrient intracellular with lasers as well. My reading is amazing. I'm completely balanced in a lot of my minerals, and there's variation always, but that's not very common because most people don't have their detox pathways working, and you can inherit these heavy metals like copper or aluminum. They are passed down through pregnancy, and so that affects your metabolic function. So we have to chelate. It's sauna exercise is great. Increasing our NRF2 pathway is amazing, but we also have to chelate to help pull these things out of our intracellular tissues in our brain, in our other organs that absolutely affect our hormones and our ability to process emotional stress.
Now, when you say chelate, I automatically go to like the heavy chelation products like DMSO, DMSA that you can only get from licensed practitioners, and then you have to be monitored because it has a whole bunch of effects to it, side effects to it. But that's not what you're talking about. We can chelate naturally, right?
We can chelate naturally, safely. So the Humate through Beam, it's a great chelator. It's a natural chelator. It's not a product that's manufactured in the way. It's 100% natural. These green tea extracts, it's called R squared night, is a product that enhances your whole NRF2 pathway. Yes, you can chelate safely, and you have to daily in this modern world. You'll never avoid all the toxins that are in our air, in our climate, in our water. It's impossible. So we don't want to do the fear mongering and the agitation marketing because it's impossible to avoid all this stuff. But you enhance your levels of carotenoids, of antioxidants, of minerals, of vitamins, and you use safe, vetted chelators that you know work and there's clinical data on. It's not smoke and mirrors.
Right.
You can come talk to the scientists. They allow you to see how it's made. No cameras, proprietary lab, but yes, chelation is a necessity in our modern world and life. The heavy chelators, like you're mentioning, there's a time and a place, just like everything. Poison's in the dose of anything. You know, the second most reactive chemical on the planet is oxygen. You know, it's fluorine is number one, and the negative ion of fluorine is fluoride. So those are the two most natural reactive elements on the periodic table, period.
Okay.
So too much oxygen will kill you. Too little oxygen will kill you.
Yeah.
And when we talk about oxidative stress and metabolic function, that's what oxidative stress is rust. Just like a metal car rusts, oxidative stress is rusting It's cellular rust, it's decomposition, and it does so at a faster rate when you're nutritionally deficient of minerals, vitamins, carotenoids. But it's a fun fact that um, rust is a universal law, just like the Fibonacci sequence, the spiral that we see in a seashell, that we see in the toilet flushing in the Milky Way galaxy. A star dies from rust. One of the ways that a star dies is creating an iron core, and then it's heavier element than the hydrogen and helium, and it's nuclear fission. So instead of recycling the electrons to keep that fission going, the star burning bright, the iron core is stealing electrons constantly from this nuclear fission, causing the sun to burn through its fuel faster. That's literally how we create a dead star. And if there's enough gravity, that's a black hole. So rust is a natural recycling of energy, because energy can neither be created nor destroyed. So it's part of the natural ecosystem.
Right. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. I want to circle back on one thing that you said that, again, my mind started going, that everything we put in our body can turn on or off a gene. And that could mean it's turning on a gene for cancer expression. It could mean it's turning off a gene for Alzheimer's. So I want everyone to just think back to yesterday and every single thing that went into your mouth. Just take a moment and go through it. And when you think about, oh yeah, I took that bite of pizza because I was on the run and that was the only thing that I could eat, and I finished the day with 2 glasses of wine. And when you step back and really think about literally everything that you chose to put in your mouth. Now, we can't necessarily choose our air environment. Sometimes when you're on the road and you got to grab the plastic water bottle, what are you going to do? Right. I mean, half the time when I'm traveling, I'm like, do I want BPAs or do I want the chemicals that the water company is putting in? Right. So it's like the best of the worst choice. But we have a choice with the foods that we're eating. And that's a really impactful statement for people to step back and think about. And then beyond that, not only can you change that because it's a choice, now you can find out more information about what your mineral, carotenoid, entire balance is in your body and what levers you have to pull just to get it in better homeostasis, better balance. Seems pretty
It's
simple to me, but yet it's not, because I know people make it complicated.
exactly. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful, is that we make it so complicated.
Yeah.
And we've all been conditioned to think it's complicated. You have to go to a different specialist for all these different things. And not saying there's a time and a place, because modern medicine's amazing in times of intervention, because healing comes in 3 phases: crisis, targeted, and preventative maintenance. We're not all in crisis. We're trying to prevent ourselves from getting in crisis. So don't go see a specialist or doc that is there for crisis management. Yeah, if you have something that's infected or rotting inside you or broken bone, you got to fix it.
Right.
But that's where all of our docs are trained. We
Mhm.
are now educating docs about how to utilize this stuff to switch it to preventative care. Preventative medicine starts with nutrition and stress management, always.
Yes,
And so,
absolutely.
what's the one thing you can do today? Like you said, you're traveling a lot. Like I travel with a glass water bottle
Mhm.
everywhere I can. And I'm that guy at the airport that has a pile of supplements with me,
Yeah.
because I know my body needs them and I feel better. When I'm traveling, I increase my vitamin C. I increase melatonin,
Mhm.
because these things help your body manage stress. Melatonin is so misunderstood. You only have a 3 to 5% bolus when you go to sleep. The rest of your melatonin is used all day, every day, and it's fuel for your mitochondria. And the level of melatonin decrease throughout your years. So supplementing with it does not really affect your ability to make it. And it's just one of those things that decreases with age, like nitrous oxide, another hormone neurotransmitter and vasodilator. It's the one thing you can do today. What can you do today? What choice can you make today to help you manage stress? Are you carrying the weight of something? Does it really matter? Is it going to matter in a week, a day, 3 months, 3 years? And what you're putting into your body matters. It's discipline. Discipline is self-love.
It is. It very much is. Now, I know everybody listening to this is going to want to scan. So can people travel to get the scan done if they really want to? Can they connect with you and say, "Hey, I'm really interested in working with you, but also doing the scan. I'm willing to travel." I mean, is that a possibility?
It is. I'm in Austin, Texas, and my business partner, we have 95% of the scanner business in America. So we will try to find one that's located near you. But if
Mhm.
someone has the means to travel, I will personally meet up with you and give you this quick 30-second test that uses lasers through the palm of your hand, to give you an accurate measurement. I had some coworkers that are very well established in what I like to call medicine 5.0 and use all these genetic and metabolic markers and this testing, and they were chronically low. They were at the bottom of the scale, and
Mhm.
they were shocked. And they didn't realize that this measurement was even available and having like health issues. And they're like, by our standard markers, everything's great. Well, our standard markers are normally looking at organ function or infection, these enzymes that get released for these tests. But let's get ahead of that. Let's look at your metabolic function. Do we know that you have the things inside your cells that we know help with all metabolic function of the cell? Every single little thing the cell does, they all have 8 jobs before their main job. So it's like a factory for this brain cell, this thyroid cell, this liver cell, this kidney cell, this GI cell. They're all these different cells, but they have a factory. They have workers shoveling coal into the furnace, and the furnace goes, and then there's an assembly line to make their product. That's what we're talking about with metabolic function, is these processes of the factory that are needed, and all the components come from nutrition and signaling from our stress.
Mhm. I love it. That's it. Yeah, you nailed it. This has been just an amazing conversation. I've been blown away again after talking to you again. And I believe I'm going to continue learning from you and continue being blown away. But I can't thank you enough for your time today and for all of your knowledge and everything you're doing. I think we're going to have to bring you back on. Maybe we can do a deep dive into melatonin. I haven't done that. And I've been
Wow.
fascinated by melatonin. So I think that that could be an entire show in and of itself. We can totally do that. But Ryan, can you tell people where they can find you if they are interested in connecting, getting a scan, or just even working with you?
Yeah. Facebook, Holistic Space Hub, because it is this holistic hub of information. Instagram is underscore holistic underscore hub. You can find me at holistic hub, all one word, uh, / get healthy USA, because that's our mission, is to get healthy USA. Let's put empowerment back into everyone. Those are the best ways to get a hold of me. My information is on there. There's so much more to come. We're building out a robust platform. We have panels of docs that are about to be marketed with Get Healthy USA for the first time ever at a national scale, helping share this cumulative 40 years of research and data. Please reach out. I'm happy to give everyone foundational metabolic functions. It's not as complicated as it sounds. It's eat foods as they are in nature, drink clean water, get sleep and sunshine, move your body, and take a supplement that works, that we know will clinically proven to increase your antioxidant levels, your mineral, your vitamin levels, your carotenoid levels.
Absolutely. There you go. There you have it. And we'll put all those links in the show notes as well. So
Awesome.
thank you once again, Ryan. I greatly appreciate your time.
Thank you, Amie.